SDG 15, the Big Questions. Where did it begin?
So, where did the concept of human rights actually begin?
It really took shape after the Second World War, especially with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948.
Right. That declaration was a response to the atrocities of the Holocaust, aiming to protect individuals from violations.
Exactly, and it established that human rights are inalienable, meaning they can't be taken away.
I found out that these rights include freedom from unlawful imprisonment and torture, which are fundamental.
And those rights are enforced at various levels, like international courts or even the International Criminal Court for serious crimes.
That's fascinating. But what happens when a state commits a crime? How is that handled?
In those cases, organizations like the United Nations can step in to help restore peace and security.
I see. And treaties play a role too, like the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women.
Absolutely. Treaties hold countries accountable to protect specific rights, but many still fail to do so.
It's troubling to hear that Amnesty International reported torture still exists in 81 countries.
And unfair trials are still happening in at least 54 countries, which is alarming.
Yet, some countries are making progress in protecting marginalized communities, like LGBT rights.
Yes, and addressing inequalities is key to resolving conflicts and promoting peace.
Finding common ground seems crucial in managing conflicts between different groups.
Definitely. Strong laws and equitable judicial systems are vital for maintaining peace. Why does this issue matter? Without equal access to justice, conflicts can remain unresolved, and people can't get the protection they need under the law.
Right. And when legal systems don't work properly, it can lead to abuse of power and inconsistent public services.
Exactly. When institutions discriminate, it doesn't just violate human rights, it can also lead to political unrest.
That's a serious issue. And what about timely justice? People can be held for years without being found guilty.
Yes, and globally, about 30% of detainees are held without sentencing. That's a slight improvement, but still concerning.
And laws need to be current too, right? They should reflect our changing social dynamics.
Definitely. Laws must protect vulnerable groups like women and LGBTQ communities. Many governments still penalize same-sex relationships.
It's shocking how many countries don't address human trafficking adequately either.
And let's not forget about corruption. It costs developing countries around $1.26 trillion a year.
That money could lift people above the poverty line for years. It's infuriating.
And violence against children is another grave issue. Over half of kids aged 1 to 14 experience some form of aggression at home.
In Northern Africa, that figure is over 90%. The long-term effects can be devastating.
It's clear that addressing these issues is crucial for creating a fair and just society for everyone. Who and what are affected? Trafficking is a severe violation of human rights and is condemned by international conventions.
Absolutely. Many victims are exploited due to poverty, which makes them more vulnerable.
And without proper legal documentation, many people struggle to access their rights and services.
Right. Many lack ID cards or birth certificates, leaving them without a secure legal identity.
Exactly, and this can lead to discrimination and exclusion from political and social services.
Discrimination against vulnerable populations is prevalent in many countries, based on sexual orientation, ethnicity, and more.
It's disheartening. For instance, criminalization of LGBTQ individuals often leads to prosecution simply for their identity.
And while Canada prides itself on being progressive, we still see the impacts of racism and colonialism on Indigenous communities.
Yes, studies show that Indigenous populations in Canada face worse outcomes compared to African American populations in the USA.
It's crucial to recognize these disparities and understand the systemic issues at play.
Definitely. Only by acknowledging these problems can we hope to foster meaningful change. What needs to be done? Social justice is about creating fair relationships between individuals and society as a whole.
Right, and promoting diversity through social justice movements can actually drive innovation.
Exactly. It's essential to ensure that vulnerable populations, like the homeless, have access to health services tailored to their needs.
And when it comes to violence, it's crucial for governments and communities to enhance justice systems.
Yes, they need to combat corruption and ensure everyone can participate inclusively.
Policies against discrimination are vital for representing all identities, especially for women and girls facing violence.
Absolutely, the roots of this violence often lie in social norms and stereotypes that need to be addressed.
Prevention has to start early, focusing on education around respectful relationships and gender equality.
And people must be able to contribute to decisions affecting their lives without facing discrimination.
Awareness of human rights documentation is key to accessing services and combating exploitation.
It's a complex issue, but understanding these facets is essential for fostering real change.